Sunday Night Live. As we wait for everyone to join us, please enjoy the sounds of the Charles Williams Trio. I hope you're enjoying the delicious food provided by Feast of Fancy Caterers. And if you'd like to prepare an old-fashioned, I suggest pulling together right now your barware and ice. Andrew Olson, the beverage director at J. Rieger and Company, will be walking us through how to make a perfect drink in just a few minutes.
Hi, my name is Patrick Sanders, and I want to welcome you to the Kansas City Hospice fundraiser. I've been involved with KC Hospice for 12 years now, doing our 0.1K run we do every year. It's a great cause. I've been touched very closely by hospice, and it's a phenomenal organization. I want to introduce the Charles Williams Trio Band, and here they are.
Welcome to the first ever virtual Sunday Night Live patron party. Thanks to Charles Williams and his band for providing the smooth sound for our patron party. I'm Eve Rojas, and I will be with you this evening for the patron party, followed by our Sunday Night Live program at 6 o'clock. I'm honored to be here with you again this year, celebrating the many programs and services provided by Kansas City Hospice. And even more importantly, the families who are served each and every day. Tonight, we gather to celebrate you, the donors and supporters, who make all of this happen. This year marks a very special milestone for Kansas City Hospice, as it celebrates its 40th year of serving Greater Kansas City. Please take a moment to raise a glass with me in a toast. Cheers to 40 years of serving the Kansas City community with expert, compassionate care like no other. Now, if you're interested in crafting the perfect old fashioned, you'll want to have your Rieger cocktail kit and barware in front of you. It's my pleasure to introduce our first guest, Andrew Olson, beverage director of J. Rieger and Company. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, so let's, we're going to
talk about... Well,
Go ahead.
Oh, I just have my kid here, but I'm going to make sure that I'm listening attentively so I don't do it wrong. I'm very excited. So you take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're going to talk about some of the history of the brand briefly, and we're going to talk about our delicious spirit that we're going to be using tonight, the KC whiskey from Jacob Rieger and Company. I will let you know, this is obviously a live feed, so we've got a train outside that likes to be a part of the entire experience, so you'll have to pardon the Union Pacific Railroad. But that actually is a good segue into where we kind of start with our history as a company. Jacob Rieger and Company has been around since 1887 and actually was originally located in the West Bottoms, down in the rail yard across the street from Union Depot. You know, that location for us was really important because it really allowed us to, gain a lot of foot traffic and be relatively close in proximity to the state line of Kansas, where they had actually enacted prohibition many decades before the rest of the United States. So we had quite a few people that were crawling over the state line or maybe drifting across the river to partake in some of our delicious spirits. So, with the Union Depot being in that area, it was important for us that to have that in the neighborhood. But one of the things that ended up causing some issues for us as a brand was a pretty significant flood that happened in that area, and that actually caused us to have to relocate some of our let's call it maybe advertising initiatives. With that giant flood, Union Depot ended up moving to the south part of downtown where Union Station is located now. And that caused us to have to purchase a plot of land just north of the railroad tracks and build the Rieger Hotel. Rieger Hotel obviously still standing today and houses, one of our illustrious family members, the Rieger Restaurant and Manifesto, their basement kind of speakeasy cocktail bar. And if it wasn't for that relocation, a lot of what we're dealing with here today wouldn't even be possible. So it's a lot of fun to be able to look back on the past and look at where we have come from, and looking at where we are now in the East Bottoms, next to these same railroad tracks, really trying to carve our part out in the future. So. Let's go ahead and move forward with talking about the spirits here. So today we're going to be using the Kansas City whiskey. Kansas City whiskey was the product that we led with in 2014 whenever we launched the brand or relaunched the brand. We actually relaunched Kansas City whiskey at the 100-year anniversary of Union Station. So really kind of bringing that entire story full circle. So Kansas City whiskey specifically is going to be a blend of light corn whiskey, rye whiskey, malted barley, and just a touch of 15-year Oloroso sherry. So we've got quite a few flavors in there, a decent amount of sweetness, dryness, spice, kind of heavy raisin, toffee, caramel flavors. And that's going to work really well with the cocktail that we're going to be making today. The Old Fashioned is quite literally the original cocktail. When we refer to the old fashioned, that was not even really its first name. Its first name would have been called a sling, which would have been just spirit, sugar, and water. And then with the addition of bitters, we ended up making what we call the bittered sling. And that cocktail was pretty popular in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And that cocktail led to people asking for the old-fashioned cocktail or the old-fashioned way of making a cocktail. And so we end up with the cocktail that we're going to be making today, which is the most kind of historically relevant and original recipe for the old-fashioned, or also known as the bittered sling. So hopefully you all have all of your ingredients in front of you. Everything should have come in the kit. Obviously, we talked about the Rieger's Kansas City whiskey. You should have a half-size bottle of the Kansas City whiskey in your kit. You will find a small 4-ounce bottle that's going to have your cane syrup. I'm going to be using just a little squeeze bottle. On top of that, you should have a small dropper bottle. That dropper bottle is actually a blend of 2 bitters. So on the recipe card, it should say that you've got orange bitters and Angostura aromatic bitters. We go ahead and just blend that up, really just in order to save some space in those kits. So after that, you got your orange. We're going to use that to garnish, and you should have a small ramekin for some cherries. So let's get to it. I'm going to be mixing the cocktail in this mixing glass, and then I'm going to be pouring it into my cocktail glass. The method is preferred for me, as I don't want to over dilute my drink right out the gate. But if you are going to be making your drink at home in the glass that you're going to be drinking out of, that's totally fine. I think you might have to do a little bit of stirring, or you're just going to have to muscle through some of the bracing, high octane flavors you're going to get right out the gate. All right, so moving into the cocktail itself, what we're going to start with is we're going to start with our smallest ingredients, and we're going to work our way up to our largest ingredients. So I'm going to start with the bitters. Angostura bitters, one of the most iconic bitters out on the market. It's been around for a very, very long time. You'll always recognize it by its bright white label and yellow top. We're going to use about 3 to 4 heavy dashes of Angostura bitters, which means we need to take this bottle, invert it 180 degrees, and kind of thrust it down into the mixing glass. We're going to do the same thing with our orange bitters, 2 to 3 heavy dashes of that. For those of you at home that do have the dropper bottle, very simple. You've got the rubber nipple on the dropper itself. Go ahead and squeeze that a couple times until the eyedropper fills about 3/4 of the way full. And you want 1.5 of those full dropper pieces, and that'll eyedroppers, and that'll give you enough bitters to what we're going to be working with here. Next, we need our sweetener. So,
Andrew, can I put too much of this in, or not?
You could put too much of it in, but honestly, go light on it.
Okay.
It's just there to help amplify a lot of those baking spice flavors that we get from the whiskey. So if you do too much, it's going to overpower it. But luckily, I think we gave everybody enough that they can practice 3 or 4 times at home.
Perfect.
So it should be good. Next, we're going to do our sweetener. So we've got some of that cane syrup that I was talking about. I use a measuring spoon. For those of you at home, feel free to use like your measuring spoons as far as like tablespoons, half tablespoon, teaspoon, and so forth. We're looking for roughly a teaspoon to a half tablespoon, and that should give us just about under 1/4 of an ounce of your syrup. That syrup's going to be pretty thick, so make sure you get everything out of the measuring spoon that you've got. That syrup is pretty easy to make. A lot of people would refer to it as simple syrup. It's quite literally just granulated sugar and water. Heat it up on the stove until the sugar dissolves, and then you can just cool it off, and it's ready for application. The last ingredient we're going to use is going to be our Rieger's Kansas City whiskey. So Rieger's Kansas City whiskey, we're going to need 2 ounces of that. Obviously, this is our primary suspect in making this cocktail delicious. If you don't have a jigger at home, remember I was talking about measuring spoons. 1 tablespoon equals 1/2 ounce. So I'll do the math for you. That's going to be 4 tablespoons total. I do have a measuring device, so I'm going to go ahead and measure out 2 ounces. If you don't have a measuring device, it's really relative at that point. You just pour up whatever you feel like is necessary.
Now, Andrew, if I have leftovers, what other nice adult libations can I make with these same ingredients?
With those same ingredients, at that point, you'd be left with maybe switching out your spirit and maybe making a rum old fashioned or a tequila old fashioned, or maybe you've got some cognac or something like that. You're more than welcome to swap in another spirit. I tend to steer away from the lighter spirits like gin and vodka, as they are so delicate that all the other ingredients that we're going to be adding is going to end up overpowering it quite a bit. So last but not least, we're just going to stir this thing, and then we're ready to pour it into our glass and give it a good garnish, and then we're off to the races and enjoying this cocktail. So I'm going to add the ice and give it a quick stir. The whole point of stirring your cocktails is to not only chill the cocktail, but we want to dilute it as well. So for me, I'm holding on to the side of the glass, and I'm going to feel the glass get colder and colder. I'm kind of watching the line of the cocktail as it dilutes. It starts to fill the glass a little bit more. All these things that I notice are just kind of some of the little tricks and little details that you notice by doing this, thousands and thousands of times over the last decade. So I've got this thing pretty well chilled. I'm going to be serving this cocktail on a large rock. That's going to actually help me, again, maintain its cold temperature, but not continue to dilute it. The large cubes have less surface area, so it gives us an opportunity to keep the drink cold and not over dilute it or water it down. So I've got the cocktail ready. I'm going to pour it over ice. After I've strained it off the ice, filled the glass, I'm going to take my orange, and if you've got a knife, that'll work. If you've got a vegetable peeler, that'll work too. We're just going to cut a nice thin layer off the peel. And with that peel, I'm going to hold it between my thumb and my index finger, and I'm just going to express it right over the cocktail, giving some of that orange oil aroma right on top. And then I've got a skewered cherry that I'm just going to drop in there on the side. So that's our Kansas City Whiskey Old Fashioned. Quite easy, very delicious, very simple. I hope you all enjoyed it. I felt like I was under a little pressure because that band before me that I had to follow was full flavor, and I feel like this cocktail is not going to even hold up to that. But
well, I'm going to have to wait an hour to have mine, so I'm going to wait to put the ice in, and this will be my celebratory drink at the end. Thanks, Andrew, for sharing your knowledge and providing such a fun kickoff to our evening. We're fortunate to have a distillery with such deep history right here in Kansas City. It's now my great pleasure to introduce internationally known comedian David Nastor. David was the only American comedian to open for Celine Dion's World Love Tour and is an award-winning author and filmmaker. He created You Just Have to Laugh, which showcases how real people use humor and laughter to get them through life's toughest times. David has inspired, encouraged, and brought joy to countless people. Ladies and gentlemen, David Nastor. Hi, David.
How you doing? That was a little complicated, the drink, so I just got a big bottle of tequila here.
Okay.
And I'm pouring that in here, and then I'm getting your favorite Patron orange thing and put it in here. I don't have to mix it. I don't have to put ice. I don't have to do nothing. You know what I got to do?
He's drinking, of course, David.
Let's go.
Hey, David, I know when you were putting together You Just Have to Laugh during times of grief and loss, you spent a lot of time at Kansas City Hospice meeting with people. Share with me how that really cultivated and helped you out with your material.
Well, what really got me going before Hospice was a show that I did in Edgerton, Kansas. Hi, everybody. This is amazing. As a comedian, I have been in the most impossible situations. You're looking at the guy on 9/11 at 1:00 in the afternoon was entertaining 2,000 people of the Social Security Administration in the ballroom in Baltimore. Yes, I was up there doing a show. I was the opening act for Steppenwolf with 1,000 bikers at the Uptown Theater screaming at me to get off the stage. I have been in the most impossible situations you can be. And now I'm performing to a screen. And I can't hear any laughter. So I don't know how I can hear it. And it's my goal here that you do laugh, because that's what this is about. You just have to laugh. Where it really came from for me, how humor and laughter could help us through a difficult time. I was, real quickly, I was the first street performer in Kansas City. In 1977, I worked on the plaza doing street shows. And they kicked me off. Matter of fact, the police said, if you come back, we're going to arrest you. Then I moved up to Westport and started doing shows there. A guy saw me on the street doing my mime and clown, and he said, Dave, why don't you come out to Edgerton, Kansas and do a show for our church? Edgerton, Kansas, a church. I went there to do a show, and, I couldn't do stand-up comedy because it was just way, in a church. What could you do there? So I did some audience participation, and I randomly, so I thought, picked a guy up out of the audience that was real tall. And since, I'm 5'5", I thought this would be hysterical. So I get him on stage, and we're just having fun. I convinced this 6'3" guy to get on a stick horse, put a kazoo in his mouth, make sounds of a horse. He starts running around the theater. I'm on a unicycle with a kazoo in my mouth, making sounds of a motorcycle. We're racing around the theater. The minister's laughing so hard he's crying. And of course I let him beat me, and I had a power soaker there. And the first one across the pulpit got to pick up a power soaker, and the other guy, I let him soak me. Big laugh. Everybody's laughing, having a great time. So I leave the show going, that was great. That was fun. And this guy who I'd randomly selected follows me to my car. And I don't even know it. He sneaks on. I go, excuse me, sir. And he's got this big old, Midwest farmer voice from Edgerton, Kansas. And I turn around, and there he is. And I'm looking up to him because I want to thank you. And I said, you're welcome. And I put out my hand. He won't take my hand. He breaks that space that makes us comfortable, that we just let special people in. He grabs me and he goes, you don't understand. 3 months ago, I lost my baby boy. He died. And this is the first time I've been able to laugh. And I want to thank you for reminding me why you just have to laugh. And he wipes tears, walks off. Whew. I got to tell you, I need another drink of tequila. Excuse me. Cheers.
David.
Okay. What I learned at that moment about that, she joined me finally in audience, one person. I made a quest of what happened to that guy. What happened that the humor and the laughter helped him get through it in a difficult time? So that was my quest. So I started performing, doing all kinds of shows, and I would tell stories how humor and laughter helped us get through a difficult time. And here's the one story that I share about that and about why it's important to laugh. Folks, I want you to know I'm a comedian. I've been in all kinds of situations. And when I tell stories about some certain people, I say it with reverence. And every single story I'm about to tell you, they're all true. It's what's in the book and what's in the video series. And they're all true. But there's a guy named Einstein. I've heard you heard of him. He went by one name, much like Cher. Einstein. And Einstein said, example is not another way to teach. It's the only way to teach. So I want you to hear me out, because just remember this. Just because something is serious doesn't mean we can't laugh at it. And just because we're laughing at it doesn't mean it's not serious. It's a coping mechanism. It's a way we use humor as, and not because it's funny, as a way to navigate through our feelings. Here's an example. One of my best friends goes to see his buddy in the hospital. He just got his leg amputated to diabetes, and we'll all admit that's not funny. He walks in, my buddy walks in, he's crying. He doesn't know what to say to his friend. There is his friend with one leg, and he's laughing. He goes, how can you laugh at a moment like this? You just got your leg amputated. He goes, read that card somebody just sent me. And he picked up the card and read it, and it read, get well soon. I hope you get back up on your feet. They crossed out feet and wrote foot. I said to him, did he laugh? He goes, he was laughing his head off. And he said, I didn't even know what to say. And I asked him, I said, you laugh at stuff like that? Here it comes. He said, you bet I laugh at that, because that's how I choose to deal with it. See, folks, we're going to get in, every single one of us is going to get into a difficult time. And we use humor as a way to navigate through our feelings, to get through it. That's how we do it. Secret, laughing at yourself. If you can laugh at yourself, you got it made. Some people can't. You may look at me, people see me, and I'm portly, chubby, squatty, whatever you want to say about me. I could care less what you think. I am a nutritional overachiever. That's the way I choose to look at myself. I am vertically challenged and horizontally proficient. That's the way I choose to look at myself. If you can laugh at yourself, you can heal yourself. And who taught us this? Mel Tillis. Mel Tillis stutters. If you stutter, if you know anybody else that stutters, It is terrifying to be, as a kid, to be called on in school, because why? Everybody laughs at you. What did Mel Tillis do? He laughed at himself first, pulled the rug out. You can't hurt him. See, when you laugh at yourself, people can't hurt you. You already know who you are and you laughed at it. I don't know if you heard this story about Mel Tillis, and the guy that verified these stories was Bob Eubanks. Remember Bob Eubanks from the Newlywed Game? Bob's a good friend of mine, and Bob was Mel Tillis's manager when they first went on the road touring. You know, Mel tells this story and how he makes people feel comfortable that he stutters. You know, he didn't stutter anymore. I think, did Mel Tillis pass away? Somebody told me that the other day. If he did, I really don't know that. But if he did, it doesn't make any difference because the stories are funny. Mel would tell these to the audience to ease them about how to laugh at yourself. And, you know, he sold more Bibles in his Bible study. Have you heard this story? He sold more Bible in his Bible study. He went door to door selling Bibles. And how he sold more Bibles than anybody, he used what he was born with. He went up to him and said, my name is Mel, and I'm selling Bibles today. Would you like to buy a Bible today, or should I read it to you? You know what's great about that? First of all, I got to say this. If you stutter, if you know somebody else who stutters, please don't think I'm sitting here making fun of stuttering people. I'm not. But you get the point of the story. When you laugh at yourself, you hear yourself. Now, I'm going to tell you one here that I really want to tell you. This is how important it is, because we get serious, you know, with you just have to laugh. I go after the stuff that's serious. One of my best friends, his name is Dr. Chris Celio. He works with depression and suicide patients. Chris stutters himself. Chris is a stutterer. And he actually says, David, when I stutter, when I'm talking to a patient and they have empathy to me, they start to open up and talk. He said, so I use that to bring out with people to help them. But hang with me on this story, please. This is amazing. Chris was, and this woman, by the way, gave me and Chris permission to tell the story publicly. It's an absolutely true story. When you laugh at yourself, you can heal yourself. Just because something's serious doesn't mean we can't laugh at it. And just because we're laughing at it doesn't mean it's not serious. Here we go. This woman tried to kill herself, ladies and gentlemen, 100 times. 4 times she was successful, and they brought her back. Chris was there doing therapy with her. He's talking to her in therapy, and she's going on and on about she's a perfectionist, and it's ruining her life, and she's a perfectionist. And Chris, and he'll admit, he said, David, this isn't a standard technique, but I knew her. And I'm going to stop right now for a second. You want to use humor with people? You better know them, and you better know your intention. And Chris did, but they had a relationship. I'll get to that in a minute. Get to the story. And she's going on and on about being a perfectionist. And Chris goes, you're a perfectionist. And she said, yes, I am. He goes, well, aren't all these failed attempts at suicide kind of bothering you a little bit? And she got it. She heard it. She heard the absurdity of the moment. And she started laughing at herself because she got it. And guess what? You can guess that woman never tried to kill herself again because she laughed at herself. Absolutely true story. Now, here's a very important thing to know when you do humor and laughter. Guys are teasers. If you're going to use humor with someone, you better know your intention and they better know you. The reason that worked with that woman is they knew each other. They knew each other very, very, very well. That's what works. I'll give you one more thing. Can I tell another one? I see you on the screen. Can I tell another one? This is priceless. This is priceless. This Brian and Sandy, again, these are true stories people share with me why we have to laugh at the difficulty. Sandy wants a nose job. She thinks her nose is too big. Brian thinks it's fine. He thinks it's fine. She said, David, I want the nose job. Brian said, honey, get the nose job, whatever. He's waiting for her in the recovery room. As she comes into the recovery room, he said, honey, how are you? She says, I'm miserable. Please just let me. He goes, what can I do for you? She said, nothing. She said, no, honey, what can I do for you? And she said, just get me a casket. And he said, well, at least we can close the lid now.
Okay, she said, I need to let you know, too, there's 200 people watching and laughing with you, not just here at the studio, but
are they laughing in the studio?
Yes, they are. And there's 200 people watching.
And here's what's great about that story that I just told you. That I asked Sandy, I said, did you laugh? And she goes, David, I laughed. It hurt, but I laughed. And that's what I wanted to tell the folks about this. It's the real stuff we have to laugh at. These are the people that we can get through and laugh at.
Well, let me ask you this, David, because
yes.
When you say laugh your way through grief and loss, laugh your way through death and dying, your advice was laugh at ourselves. What other type of advice can we take and use it ourselves in our daily lives?
Take the moments that happen. take the moments that happen that are generally funny. And now I'm going to talk about grief. And to the folks there, please, 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 I say this with reverence, but these are true stories that have been in your situation. There are moments it's going to happen and you have to hold on to them during grief. A nurse told me at another hospice that a woman came up to her and said to her, Mom is ready to go, but she doesn't, I don't know what to do. And they said, sometimes she'll see the light. Tell her to go towards the light. It'll help the transition. The nurse was walking down the hall that night. The daughter of the mother who was in the hospice laying there had a flashlight pointing to the ceiling going, Mother, go to the light, go to the light, go to the light. And she was serious. Those are the honest moments that we have to take when they happen. Here's another one. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Grandpa, again, I have been on the sacred bed of a dying parent. So I know how important being sacred, but there are just funny things that happen. This didn't happen to me, but a good friend of mine. Grandpa died in his house. This gentleman was the minister who oversaw it. Grandpa died in his house. He wanted to die. Hospice was there. They started the prayer circle after Grandpa died. The phone rang. Who's going to stop and answer the phone at this sacred moment? Nobody. It's a sacred moment. On the 9th ring, the recorder phone goes off. On the old-fashioned recorder phone. Whose voice is on the recorder phone? Grandpa's. What does everybody hear at this sacred moment? Hi, I'm not here right now. And they all started laughing because it was so absurd. And what really got them laughing, he goes, leave a message because I'm not sure when I'll be back. See, laughing through our tears is the greatest emotion. The greatest thing I can tell you, though, is this. And I learned this from a woman when I did a show for the Allison Taylor Holbrook Foundation in San Francisco. And this is for breast cancer patients. And I did a show for breast cancer patients, and these women are laughing. I was scared because I wasn't sure. And Barbara Johnson, the woman who hired me, she said, David, just go do your thing and talk about laughter. But folks, I'm going to leave with this because I think we're about wrapped up here, and I think we all need another drink. I need some more tequila. But after I did the presentation,
that's the story, David, and I want to ask you one more question.
Okay, so get this, you bet. Yeah, finally I have an audience, one person.
But 200 people watching, David.
Well, beautiful. So after I did this presentation, get this. This woman comes up and she's, David, could I have a word with you? And I said, sure. She goes, my name is not important, but the story is. I go, please, ma'am, tell me. She said, I'm 72 years old. And after my mastectomy, I went to see my female doctor. And I asked my female doctor, I'm assuming now since I just have one breast, I get 50% off on this visit. Is that true? And I said, ma'am, I'm a comedian. That's a very funny line. Did your doctor laugh? And here it comes. She said, I don't know, David. I didn't do it for her. I did it for me. You have to do the humor for yourself because if you're in a good place, you can't get through the illness because when you laugh at yourself, you heal yourself.
And David, we have a little bit of time. So what I want to ask you, since this humor, some people, it's sensitive, right? What point in your life did you discover that you can make people laugh with this type of subject matter? What was that pivotal moment?
That pivotal moment was Edgerton, Kansas. That's why I told the story. And Edgerton, Kansas, when it happened, I went, wait a minute. And then what happened is all of these people started coming up and telling me these stories, how, humor and laughter would help them through a difficult time. This woman came up to me and she said, David, my husband, these are the stories I get after a presentation because everybody wants to talk about that moment in their life where it was tragic. And yet there was a moment that pushed you through it. It's bringing light to the darkness. It's bringing lightness to the heaviness. But this woman came up to me one time and she said, David, my husband had his leg amputated to bone cancer, and I was waiting for him in the recovery room, and he came out and goes, honey, what did the doctor say? And she said, the doctor said you're going to be fine. It's going to take you a while, but you're going to be fine. But we can't make it on my salary. You're going to have to get a job and get up and going. And I got you an application here for IHOP. And I said, did he laugh? He goes, he loved it. He laughed. That's why we have to do it. Oh, one more. Can I tell them? This is one of my favorite. This was told to me by Carol, 67 years old. Her husband had a stroke, and he's starting to come back and started to recover. And his speech slowly came back, but he was stuck in a wheelchair and his vision started coming back. So what she would do would put him in a wheelchair and she would roll him around the house. I mean, not roll him, but a wheelchair around the house with him and talk to him and reacquaint him to the house. And she would put the laundry that she had folded on his lap of the wheelchair, and she's rolled him through the house. And she stops in front of a big mirror in the wall, and so she sits him there. She takes the laundry out and she goes and puts it on the bed in the bedroom. She hears him talking. For the first time, he's talking. And she goes and stands behind the wheelchair. And he's looking in the mirror and he said, "So old. Look, so old." And she said, "Honey, it's okay. You're recovering." He goes, "No, I was talking about you." When you laugh at yourself, you hear yourself. So again, those are the stories that I hear. Oh, real quickly, I have to do this. So do I have it here?
We have time. If you have another story too, David, we have just a little bit of time. Unless you need to take another drink of your tequila, go ahead and do that too.
Cheers, cheers. Folks, I hope you know me by now. I don't do stuff that's irreverent but fun. Most of us know Larry Stewart. We may not know him by name. He passed away, but Larry Stewart was the Secret Santa. The original Secret Santa in Kansas City. Larry Stewart invented something, and I'm going to do it, folks. If you're having difficulty with social distancing and people won't stay around you, see this little thing I have in my hand right here? Larry Stewart invented this. If you have trouble with social distancing, it's a handheld whoopee cushion. Believe me, you 6 feet, 8 foot, 10 feet. But here's isn't that funny? But here's what Larry did.
Yes, that's funny.
Now Larry was dying of esophageal, and Larry was such a great soul. Larry did not want to die. He was so full of life. So what did Larry do? Larry knew he was dying, but he continued to laugh. He continued to live, and that's so important when you're sick or something's going on. You have to keep living. And so Larry calls his best friend, and he said, "Let's go out to Vegas this weekend." And his friend goes, "We don't gamble. What are we going to do?" And Larry goes, "We're going to ride elevators." Larry and his best friend, Larry was very good friend with Steve Wynn, from Steve Wynn, the big hotels, the ritzy hotels in Vegas. Larry got permission from Steve Wynn for him and his best friend to ride elevators all day. Larry wore his overalls. Larry had snow white hair and that big beard, and his best friend, and they're at the most exclusive hotel in Vegas. And Larry Stewart is going up the elevator with his friend, doing that, just pranking people. Larry told me this must have been easily 10 years ago, maybe more. Larry was with his friend on the elevator, and who walks around the corner? It's absolutely true. Johnny Cochran. If you remember Johnny Cochran, the Simpson trial? If it doesn't fit, it must have quit. And Larry said, Mr. Cochran had a date. He said, they were, without a doubt, the most stunning-looking proper couple you have ever seen in your life. And they get on the elevator, and as soon as that shuts, Johnny Cochran hits 9. Now, Larry knew who he was. Johnny Cochran hit 9. The elevator starts going up, and Larry Stewart nailed him. Now, he hit it. Larry hit it. And he said, Johnny Cochran shot him a look. He thought he was going to hit him. And Larry had a standard line. He goes, "I'm so sorry, sir, but I had one of them sushi burritos out of the vending machine, and my stomach ain't right." Johnny Cochran just looked straight ahead, and Larry's best friend nailed him, and they never cracked a smile or nothing. They got up on the 4th floor. They got up 5 floors earlier. And what makes this story so beautiful is Larry never stopped laughing. And the best friend of Larry's, for you football fans, because we got a lot of football fans, was Dick Butkus, the hardest hitting linebacker in the Chicago Bears. And I saw Dick later on after that, and he confirmed the story. That's why we just have to laugh. We have to find a way during the difficult times to blow out the steam.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to promise me something, David, that you let me ride the elevator with you one day. Okay? So there's somebody here that wants to come say hi to you. Please welcome David Wiley.
Hey, David Wiley.
Hey, David. How are you? It's good to see you.
David, if I was any better, I'd have to hire 4 more clowns to throw confetti around me. That's how good I am.
We're so happy that you're here, and we've had the chance to have David speak to our staff several times for our all-staff forums, and he just does a terrific job. And I couldn't agree with you more. We got to keep the laughter going. So it's absolutely terrific.
And I want to thank you, David, because I learned so much when talking to the hospice, the importance of humor for the nurses, for the doctors, and why we have to do, because when we laugh together, we heal together.
Absolutely. Incredible.
Yes, we do. Well, thanks, David, so much.
My pleasure. Can I get back to the bottle now?
Yeah, you can get
Yeah.
back to your tequila. Thank you. We so appreciate you sharing your talents with us.
Pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, the show will start at 6 o'clock. Remember to purchase your raffle tickets and bid on the silent auction items. And if you're not registered yet, you can get to the registration link by texting SNL to 76278. Again, that's 76278, and just text that number, SNL. And stand by because we're going to be back real shortly.